Happy Monday. Although I do feel this episode is about to be a Tuesday science episode. Whichever way, happy day, happy start of the day, happy evening, happy something. How is everyone? How have you all been? What you've been all up to? What have you all been up to? Welcome back to another episode of Monday Science. I'm Dr. Bahija Raimi Abraham, your host for today. So, trying something new there. So today's episode is actually I thought, so background. I am, for those who might be new or who don't know, so I'm an academic. I have a research group called the Raimi Abraham Group. You can find out more on our website, www.theraimeabrahamgroup.com. And as an academic, there are several different parts to my working life. There's teaching elements, so as it sounds, teaching where I lecture. I lecture undergrad pharmacy and postgrad pharmaceutical sciences course. So the pharmacy program, and then we've got a pharmaceutical sciences or pharmaceutical technology program. I also support master's research students and MRes research students within that teaching space. And then I have my research arm, which takes up more, well, in theory, I think it's meant to be like 20% teaching, 70% research, and then 10% admin. But I don't think it works out that way. Maybe sometimes of the year it's a bit different. And the research arm, so yeah, I've got a research group. Um, and our aim is to solve pharmaceutical challenges in infectious diseases. And there are three main ways in which we do that. So, one is looking at the development of in vitro infectious disease models. So, these models are great. They're cell based, so trying to minimize the need for animal testing. And so with these models, they're what we call 3D cell culture models. So they've got very good mimicry to an organ, in what we call in vivo. And so, yeah, making those in vitro models. So that's one way. We've got a unique way of making these models. Then the second line of inquiry is looking at nanotechnology approaches, more specifically something called metallodrugs, which are drugs, so therapeutic agents that have a metal ion in there somehow, some way. And so with this second arm is looking at, can we get to a stage? I mean, this is actually, there are some groups that are working on this, something called theranostics. So oh yes, this is going back to the whole Theranos, but it's not. What I'm doing is not Theranos, please no. But theranostics are where you get simultaneous diagnosis and treatment of a condition. It's traditionally used more in cancer therapy, and there's some emerging groups that are looking at the strategy for infectious diseases. And so this is an area of interest for me. And in the first instance, we're making these metallodrugs using a sustainable approach. So using plants, so something called green synthesis, which is great. And making all these lovely metallic nanoparticles or metallodrugs and looking at their therapeutic properties against certain infectious diseases, as well as exploring their potential as diagnostic agents. And then the third arm of my work is more of an advocacy and awareness arm, and that's in line with the work that I do around fake medicines, so substandard or falsified medicines, sometimes referred to as fake medicines. And that's where I started the King's College London Fight the Fakes chapter. And because anti-infectives tend to be the highest falsified medicines, and saw this a lot during COVID time in particular as well. I think a lot of people really understand the issue of fakes. And yeah, so that's the third arm. So it's more advocacy awareness, but there is some research, and I'm going to talk about that later. So that's me. That's the work that I do. Oh yes, and the admin. I forgot admin. How could I forget? Admin. Okay, so what we mean by admin could be maybe some like module. So it's actually sometimes tied in with the teaching. So for example, I'm what we call a module lead. So there's a module that I'm in charge of in the pharmacy program. Um, and then admin can be to do with maybe sitting on committees and things like that. So I'm also part of the school's DDI, so Development, Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And what else do I do? I feel like I'm missing something out. Um, I think I do other stuff. And aside from the work that I do uh, as part of being an academic, I'm also board member of the Academy of Pharmaceutical Sciences and Monday Science host. So I have a lot on my plate, which I enjoy. Um, there are aspects that sometimes get a bit stressful, and then even within that, I do try and find the joy, even if you may see on my my social media, on my Instagram particularly, I might have a little outburst and be like, "Ah, help!" But nonetheless, yeah, I like being an academic. I enjoy it. I enjoy the freedom. I was on an interview, Hacker Valley Studio, and it was interesting because the I think it was Ron Eddings who had also had on Monday Science talking about cybersecurity. He referred to me as a creative, and that was the first time somebody had ever. So I would, sorry, I'm a bit. I should clarify. So I felt that I was a creative person and I had creativity, but I assigned if somebody says you're a creative, it's linked in with the arts, which is something I'm very passionate about and have been. And so to be called a creative because I'm an academic, I was like, wow, yeah, I am a creative. And actually there is, well, there's creativity involved in not just establishing your research group, but actually understanding what your research question is or your research field or the research area. So, why am I talking about this? Ah, yes, because I wanted to give you an update on what's been going on in the world of, well, my world. That sounds a bit arrogant, but in the world of academia from my perspective. So I attended my first in-person conference a couple of weeks ago, and that was the Life Science Integrates. It was the BioIntegrates conference, and that was actually based on me being a board member of the Academy of Pharmaceutical Sciences, as I mentioned, and I was actually representing the organization, just talking about what we do and, basically what we do, trying to engage people to become members and, showcase really. I realize I haven't explained. You see, this is bad. I'm slacking. Sorry, guys. So the Academy of Pharmaceutical Sciences, which is referred to as the APS, and we are a UK-based professional membership body for pharmaceutical scientists. And so we represent individuals and organizations from around the globe through their development, sorry, in the delivery of excellence within the pharmaceutical science sector. So I actually heard of the APS during my PhD many moons ago. In fact, I'm 10 years qualified, 10 years qualified, 10 years graduated, PhD graduate this year. Actually, it's in June, sometime in June. I will note the exact date. Um, and so, yeah, I actually was an APS member from my PhD, and it was really great for networking, great conferences. In fact, we have a conference coming up in September, which is really good. Very much looking forward to that. And so at BioIntegrates, I was representing the APS along with some colleagues, and we were, as I just mentioned, like talking about the organization, the work we do, networking, meeting potentially new members and partners, and so forth, which was great. So as I mentioned, it was my first in-person conference, and yeah, my social skills were a little bit out of whack. It's just I couldn't remember. I just couldn't remember what to do, and I kept like flapping my arms. I was very expressive through the medium of my hands and not even just hands. I think there's a difference between talking with your hands and then talking with your arms. And I was talking with my arms. I know I was talking about. In fact, I'm actually doing it now, and I'm like, this feels weird. But it was a great conference. It was in London, so it was quite good not having to travel too far for this first experience. And what I liked about it was that it's very so there are a lot of people from industry there, which is good for me being an academic because I always worry that being an academic, I'm in my own little bubble where I'm in my own little space and I'm like, yeah, this all makes sense to me, but I feel that at times I may lose the application or lose the ability to look at the application of my work in a real world setting. What was really nice was that I was able to see and meet other companies, new startups, and what we call SME, small medium enterprises, that were flourishing and were very interested in not just the APS, but also interested in like my work from a research perspective. So that was very interesting. And it helped me understand the commercialization potential of my work, which I'd actually started on that train of thought, but to then get people in from the sort of industry sector who are like, yeah, this is how you could go about it. It was really great. So the conference started with an opening, a welcome from the chairman, which was great. And then they had something called fireside chats. And what it was an interview with somebody, like their guest, and the person interviewing was also so like the first guest, he was interviewed by the chairman, and that first guest, it was very interesting because he was like an investor who had been in the pharma and biotech industry for years. That was really amazing to like get his perspective, talking about how, like, just giving a different view for me. I think it was a fresh view for a lot of people because people were so engaged in what he had to say, but just giving a fresh perspective to me on um, thinking about what I took away was like fresh perspective for me as an academic wanting to commercialize my work, wanting to by commercializing make a difference and have impact, and actually the work that we're doing reaching people that it can help. And it was really interesting to get his perspective from an investor, um, his thoughts from an investor perspective. And then the next fireside chat, so there were like 20 minutes and it was intense, but you got so much out of it. So the next chat was with a neuroscientist and a businesswoman and innovator. And this person was interviewed by again, another expert in the field. And, it was interesting to hear her talk about like her thoughts on, the journey. And even though she's been successful in the pharma industry and has, supported so many spin outs and innovations, she still said, well, fundamentally, she's all about the science. And I was like, wow, okay. So, yeah, very interesting. And then after that, the conference was split into three, I think was it two or three? Three tracks based on different themes. And you could go to each session, you could move between the two. And it was just very, very good. I really enjoyed myself. The food was great. I was meant to take loads. I feel like I'm always promising these things. Apologies, but I was meant to take photos. I wanted to do like a real, like, going in, blah, blah, blah. But I forgot, and I should have taken a picture of my food. It was a really nice buffet. And they had tortellini pasta. I love tortellini. Tortellini pasta. They had salmon, salad. Oh, it was so good. And then dessert was like a chocolate mousse, a creme brulee. They had fruit, and they had tea, biscuits, chocolate. Oh, I ate too much. I'm eating too much at the moment. I was just living, I was just like, I'm so happy. I forgot a little bit as to why I was there. I just ate, which was amazing. Um, what else did I go to? So I didn't go to all the sessions because obviously I was standing by the APS stand, but I did go to something very, very interesting panel session called girls just want to have fun, and then in brackets DS, so girls just want to have funds. And it was talking about the fact that less than 5% of investment goes to female-led businesses. And so they had various different people on the panel, and it was to discuss like what are we like. I would say they, because even though I'm in the life sciences sector, but I'm not in the position where I'm not in a position where I'm making the decisions about which companies to get invested in. But they talked about what I guess we, quote unquote, we in the life sciences industry are doing to address the investment gap, and can this be applied to other underrepresented groups? So I was very interested in this, not only being female, but being a Black female, and just trying to understand what the and it's really weird. I was about like what I was about to say is trying to understand what the challenges are. I mean, I can see the challenges from my perspective, but it's really interesting when you hear the facts, like the data, the numbers, and then you get insight from those who are on the ground trying to make the change. I mean, it was so inspiring. Some of the things that people have had to do and how they've had to navigate in a very male dominated space. So yeah, it was really great. And I was just so inspired by every single person. I was like, this is amazing. This is amazing. Everyone's doing a great job. Um, but also it was quite good to hear, even with these statistics, as I said, less than 5% of investment goes to female-led businesses. So even with these statistics, there was still a feeling of hope, which is important, right? You want to feel like there's still hope in the sea of it. So that was really good. And then after that, I think there was more cake. There were biscuits. No, I think there was tea and cake. And then there was a drinks reception. Yeah, there was a drinks reception, which was really nice. And it was really nice to socialize, to yeah, just network. Maybe socialize is the wrong word, but network. Look at me, told you I struggled a bit. But to network, it was great. So yeah, so that's what I've been up to. What else did I get up to? I was gonna update you on other things, but I think I got very into the conference. I'll put a link for the BioIntegrates conference in the episode description, because you can have a look, and you can have a look and see. I think there is still an opportunity to sign up to I think there is an opportunity to sign up so you can have access to the recordings. Don't quote me, but I think it is possible. I mean, they were all great, and I'm actually going to go back and listen once I get my marking out of the way. I don't want to talk about marking right now, but once I get the exam marking out of the way, I'm actually going to go back and listen to things, because I found what I found was that and especially when one is now so used to watching more YouTube clips or video links, maybe I shouldn't say YouTube specifically, but video content where you can pause, audio content as well, obviously with podcasts, you can pause, you can start. So I think I can now, I don't know, I was about to say that I can see it from sort of a student's perspective, where you're like, ooh, I want to go back and listen. But I would like to go back and listen, because there were so many gems. And then also, I wasn't able to attend all of the sessions. So I'd love to be able to go back and like listen to sessions I missed, and reach out to some of the people as well. So it was a great conference. Strongly recommend, if you can get access to the recordings. I think that would be really good. And that's also obviously if you're interested in life sciences and in that life science sector. And even if you're not, I think there's something that can be learned. Like I learn a lot from when I attend seminars, or especially like online seminars that's not in my field, and I'm like, different perspective. So I do that often. What else has been going on? Okay, yes, teaching. Yeah, with exam season, and so obviously the students are doing their exams, and they have finished or are finishing, so it's marking time. I think this is a time that is stressful for both the student and the lecturer. And it's every year, and I don't know what's the solution to make it better, really. But it's stressful all round. But whichever way, one is making progress, which is good. What else can I update you on? Okay, we do. So we have published some papers this year so far, but actually, I think I'll do a separate episode about that, to give each paper the weighting and the time they deserve. But also, I'm hoping that I'd have more papers to share with you. Oh yes. Well, anyway, so yeah, okay. I think that's going to be it for today. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Maybe I should put together like my top 5 tips. Well, I'm going to another conference. I'm actually going to another 2 conferences. And I'm wondering if maybe after that I might do like my top 5 tips on attending a conference in person because I probably need to reflect myself because I think I forgot. As I said, I definitely was more awkward than I usually am. But anyway, on that note, let's see if this can still be a Monday Science episode and not a Tuesday Science episode. Enjoy the rest of your day, or rather, good night, sleep well, take care, bye.